It is my pleasure now to welcome Julian Lee. Julian is Randwick Council Sustainability Educator and spends a lot of his time growing food down at the Sustainability Hub with the other community at Randwick City Council. Prior to working at Council, Julian started an organic food box company. He ran a biodynamic farm and he mapped where all the fruit trees were in his neighborhood. Over to you, Julian. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's great to see some names that I know. And yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to write them down and we will go through them at the end, depending on the time we've got available to us. So I'm going to start screen sharing. This is Scrumpers Delight, eating your way to a better planet. This is a whole lot of fun, but it's also got nice sustainability message in here too. So here we go. What is scrumping? Here we've got Sean the sheep up there grabbing apples. So scrumping basically meant to steal fruit such as apples from trees. These days, scrumping means to harvest food from public spaces, such as macadamia nuts that have fallen on the ground or rosemary from a hedge. And it's a pretty fun and can be very harmless activity. But in the olden days, it was actually pretty serious. So the king would have his own forest where he would hunt game, and it was illegal for anyone else to hunt in there at all. This was the king's forest. And the punishment could be really extreme if you were caught. And more recently, though, you know, rich people would have their own orchards. And when poor people were hungry, they would sneak in to try and get some fruit to eat. And you can see here in this painting that a boy has been caught stealing just 2 apples and has been taken to the landowner by the groundsman. And, you know, who knows what's going to happen to him now. This image here, though, relates to us in Australia a little bit more, because while this is a sort of a funny image about being caught stealing food, of course, Australia's colonial history is based around convicts, a lot of who were sent to Australia as punishment for having stolen a bit of bread to feed their family. So scrumping is actually quite an old word and has quite a long history. These days, hunting for things takes on all sorts of different forms, such as geocaching. And geocaching is where things are hidden around the place, around the landscape, out in public, and clues are given for where these things are via an app for others to find. So the picture there shows like a lunchbox, and there's all sorts of fun things to find, and there'll be some clues on the app for you to try and find it. Inside that box, you can see there's a book and a pen. And the idea is that if you find it, it's sort of like a visitor's book. You can write down that you found it, and you can see all the other people who have found it. And after you've played with it, you know, you put it back in and hide it again for somebody else to find. If you've ever done any geocaching, you know, just put a little yes or something in the chat box just to see who here has gone geocaching before. Yeah, cool. Okay, so Mariana has. Fantastic. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And if you haven't tried it, then yeah, just Google geocaching, and there's lots of things out there. A version that happened before geocaching became really popular was book crossing, and also before street libraries became popular. And what you were able to do was actually stick a book that you'd finished reading, you stuck a little sticker in it with its particular number, you put it in the bag, and then you'd hide it outside somewhere. And then you could go onto your website and log it and give a little clue as to where you'd hidden your book. And the fun thing that's around book crossing, so again, you can just search for book crossing, or actually you can see the address on that plastic bag, bookcrossing.com, is that you as the book owner, anytime anybody found your book, they could log it online and they may have taken it with you. So there were a lot of travelers. So you could actually track your book as it traveled around the world and got read by people all over the world. So that was a lot of fun too. Now, back to scrumping food and going for food. As I was saying, these days scrumping means to find food out in public spaces. And once you've heard of this, and if you keep your eyes open, you'll actually start to notice there's a lot of food available growing right out in public where anyone can pick it. So again, what I'd love to see, oh yes, absolutely, do not do this with library books. Library books have a home for them to go to. This is for your own books that you own. You're welcome to do that too. But I'd love to see, has anyone noticed any food growing out in the street? Whack it in the chat box if you have. And write down perhaps what it is you've seen. Right. Oops. Actually, accidentally rolled something there that I wasn't meant to roll. Cool. Great. Wow. Okay. So yeah, people have seen a lot of food out in public. Absolutely. Yeah, so there's herbs and flowers going as well. So, I think a lot of us have probably seen mulberry. You've probably seen rosemary. Mulberry is really easy to spot even when it's not fruiting because the pavement's usually stained purple. Oh, yep, kumquats, not sure if you can pick them. So I'll go into that. So what I'm going to do now is show you a map. And we'll go into some of the do's and don'ts around scrumping here. So this is the Scrumpers Delight website. It's only been around for a little while. There was a previous version that had been around for 10 years and it had lots and lots of stuff in it. This is an open map set up through Google Maps. So anybody can find it and anybody can use it. So that means you can use it. So I'm hoping that after this, you'll notice that there's not many scrumps in the eastern suburbs, whereas I'm presuming a lot of you are probably living in the eastern suburbs. You can probably take a guess at where I live. I live around where all these red dots are. So what is it? Scrumpers Delight. How do you find it? Well, you can just Google Scrumpers Delight. So you can see over here in the top left, Scrumpers Delight. If you type that in, it'll be the first thing that pops up in Google search. Now, the way this map works is it's set up into these different layers. So you can, well, the first thing is you can just scroll in to an area that's got lots of food marked and you can just click on something. So let's click on this. What's this? Okay, I'm going to click on this one. So what that means is there's a lemon tree here in Lilyfield on this street. And on the mobile version, you'll actually see a little picture that shows you the tree itself. Now I know, because this is my suburb, that this is a lemon tree that's growing in somebody's backyard, but it's hanging right, it's so big, there's so much fruit on it, that it's hanging over the public into the pavement. And as long as you're thoughtful about how much you take, it's fair enough if you take a lemon or two with you. Now, so that's one way of doing it. You can just say, well, I'm here, what's around me? And you just click on these things and you can find out what's around you. But of course, not all food is fruiting at any one time. So the way this is set up is that there's these layers or categories where you can see harvest, July to August, harvest, May to June. So let's see, it's July to August. So right now, in Lilyfield, Annandale, Rozelle, yep, and Leichhardt, all these things, you should be able to go to it and get this food. So for example, say you're in Annandale, you can go, okay, it's July, it's still August, great. I'm in Annandale, I'm going to click on Lily-Pilly. And what it does is it zooms in. And so you could go here now and you'd find Lily-Pillies most likely on that tree. And see here, there's even a helpful note saying it's coming through the fence. So you can search for location. you can scroll through harvesting time. Okay, so there's no point. Yeah, there's even a jackfruit in Roselle. There's not going to be any fruit on that until November, December. And of course, different seasons are different. So you've got to be a little bit flexible around that. And you can also just say, well, where are all the lemons? And look down this list. So that's a fun thing to do when you go out and about in a new suburb. Yeah, good question. Can fruit owners opt out of your map? Not really, because this is in the public space. But the thing is, there is so much fruit growing, and usually fruit trees have, you know, huge amounts of fruit on them. And I've never come across a fruit tree where it's been, you know, it's denuded of fruit. And if it's growing into the public space, well, it actually is in the public domain. So that probably speaks to some things we shouldn't be doing when we're going scrumping. You don't get anything that's on the private side, you know, on the inside of the fence. You don't climb fences, you don't trespass, and you really just don't take more than would seem fair. You know, take a fruit, give it a go, but don't take a whole bag home with you. So absolutely, you only want to take it from the public space. And then, of course, if this map is full of fruit trees and scrumps, then it means also that there's lots and lots of options. I've noticed that mostly when I've gone around scrumping, that actually there's fruit falling on the ground. So the issue is actually too much, not enough people collecting from the public side than too few people. So this map was created by me a few months ago. I did it just because I enjoy it, and it's a great way, you know, especially during lockdown. This is a fantastic lockdown activity because you're not, you know, you're just walking the streets. And it gets me to visit streets that I wouldn't normally walk down. So it gets you off your regular path and down back streets. And often it's the back streets where you see these things, huge trees. And, you know, surprising to find jackfruit, which I think of as being, you know, I wouldn't have thought you could find that in Sydney, normally in Southeast Asia. So how do you and I add to this? Okay, one way of doing it is to come to this website, and up here, you'll see there's the little pin marker called add marker, and you click on that and you click on where you want to add it. And what you do is you add the fruit name, you know, the fruit or the name of food, you know, so for example, you know, a mandarin. And then it's helpful to put the suburb. So this is in Glebe. And then you might also say, you know, hanging over the side of the fence. And then you hit save. And that's it really. Oh, you hit save, but there it is. What you can also do is drag it into, if it's actually in September, October, well then you can drag it into the right harvesting time. I'm going to delete it for the moment because it's not real. And you know, there's add image or video, so you can take a photo of it too. Now, if you're on the, you know, usually you're out there on a mobile phone, and it's easiest to do it when you're right there and then. Good news is for Android people, you can download an app called My Maps, and you can add it straight in using the My Maps app. Now, if you're on iPhone, you're going to have to do it through the web browser to do it. So what's this? Garth is saying the eastern suburbs, people with olive trees in public spaces in front of their houses claim them as theirs and get tushy, get cross. Well, the reality is that it's in the public domain. And again, that's where I'm thinking that what you do is you just take a little bit. You don't take a lot. Okay, next thing. So I'm going to end the screen share for a moment. And we are saying, okay, what I want to do is sometimes, you know, if you have any doubt, just don't take it. Just enjoy the fact that you've found it. But there are trees, and quite often parks will have things like banana palms in them. And they, and there's basically, that's open to the public for sure. So what we'll notice in Sydney is that bananas really don't ripen very well on the tree, on the palm. Oh, how do I do that? Okay, so they'll be on the palm like this. And what I've done is they'll be green. And I've snipped them. So I've just separated into what, more like what we'd normally find in the supermarket. But it's green. And what that means is it's not going to ripen unless we specifically try and ripen it. When the ones that we get in the supermarkets, they've actually put into a ripening facility to ripen them up to that sort of slightly green yellow stage for us to then eat. We can do that at home because the way that the fruit ripens is through a gas, completely natural gas, called ethylene gas. That ethylene gas is produced by bananas, especially ripe bananas. So I've kept this banana super ripe, and also apples produce a lot of ethylene gas too. Now, what I can do is to recreate a ripening chamber is I'll put my green bananas into a plastic bag, and I'm going to stick it in there with this ripe banana and just loosely tie, whoops, that's probably really noisy for you guys. Anyway, just loosely tie it up and stick it somewhere warm. So if it's warm and it's got that ethylene gas, then it'll ripen. It might take a week or two because, and the same with avocados. Avocados don't really ripen in Sydney on the trees at all. So they're rock solid. And the way to ripen it, again, is with a ripe banana or an apple. And it takes a week or two for them to start to ripen. But as soon as you start to feel it getting soft, then what you do is you take it out and actually stick it in the fridge so that it slows down the ripening process dramatically and gives you time to eat it before it gets all black, spotty and mushy and yuck. So those are two things where you're probably not going to get in trouble with anybody feeling like it's theirs, because avocados and bananas are very often found in completely public spaces, not somebody's hanging over somebody's fence or on the verge. Now, the other thing that you can get without causing upset to anybody is macadamia nuts and also bunya pines, if you've got any bunyas in your area. They're really fun to collect. Okay, I'm just going to quickly, before I move on, see any of the questions there. Yeah, well, the one there about, the ones on the verge gardens are often looked after specifically by somebody. I think, absolutely, we've got to be really thoughtful about what we're doing here. But, look, this is the other thing I was going to say. So why would you bother scrumping? Well, one, it gets you outside. Two, if you're trying to find more and heading down all these back alleys that you wouldn't might necessarily walk down, it's a great way of exploring and seeing new things. But the bit that I think I really like is that it's a fantastic way of getting to know people. Because you might see somebody, in their front yard who has looked after a verge garden, and you can talk to them about it. And the thing I've found with most people who grow food is that if you're not seen as sort of somebody who's just stealing or being unfair, but you're actually interested and you're talking to them, it's a wonderful way to meet people. And also, in that sense, people are often very generous and say, here, please take this home with you. People who grow things often love to share the harvest with other friendly people. Okay, now, so great for you. It's healthy. If there's too much food, like in mulberries, you're also helping clean up some mess. Now, what I'm going to do is show you a sustainability angle here. And given that this was aimed at stage 3 and 4 students in particular, I'm also going to bring this back to how you might prioritise some of your actions at school, but also this equally goes for people in their homes or in their business. So this website here, Drawdown, and it's drawdown.org, was a project by 100 international scientists to figure out what were the most impactful things that we could do to draw down, to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So what they did was they created it, and they created two different scenarios, 1.5 degrees rise, 2 degrees rise. And they ranked them according to the science, and this keeps changing as the science updates, according to the most impactful, which would have the biggest numbers, or the least impactful. So scenario 1 is a 2-degree change in temperature. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sort it according to, so that's least impactful. I'm now going to sort it to most impactful. So you can see here that reducing food waste is the most important thing that any of us could possibly do in terms of reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Just for interest, I'll do scenario 2, which is 1.5 degrees. And you'll see that reducing food waste is still number 3. Okay, so what does that mean? To me, what that means is that if you were going to try and work on something for, climate change action or something at school or something at home, then to me it would make sense, because we've all got limited time, we've got limited resources, then to me it would make sense to work on the things that are going to have the biggest impact that you also care about. It's important that you care about this sort of thing. But if you have any interest in food and food waste, then it's a fantastic thing to do. So by going around, if you have appreciation for food and you know how much effort it is to grow, you speak to neighbours who are growing food, that sort of thing, it's basically anybody that has that sort of interest and cares about food tends to waste a lot less food. So that's where the connection between scrumping, food waste, and the environment comes in. Of course, it's fun, it's healthy. The other thing in there is that, look, we can't eat all the food. Sometimes we can't eat the, we don't want to eat the skins of the bananas. In some countries, they actually do. So reducing food waste is different to composting. So Randwick Council has launched a fantastic program, FOGO, where you put it in the green bin and they will compost it. And that is much, much better than it going into landfill. And basically already, even though it's just launched, almost 1,500 tonnes of food waste, instead of going into landfill, almost 1,500 tonnes of food per month in the Randwick LGA, thanks to you guys out there, is now actually being diverted and then turned into compost and going back out to farms to grow more food. What a win-win. But let's actually eat all the food. Any edible food, let's not even compost it, let's eat it. So that's where you get good at doing leftovers and that sort of thing. So that's the end of me talking, but I'd love to know from you who might be keen to use the Scrumpers map and add things, and any questions that you might have now that I've finished talking.
Thank you so much, Julian. That was really interesting. I enjoyed that. We should start mapping some fruit in the eastern suburbs.
Yeah.
I'll go for a walk. That actually adds a whole different purpose to our daily lockdown walks as well.
It does.
Yeah.
And, and it gets you from going somewhere different.
That's right.
Can I find it? It's a treasure hunt. It's great.
It is. So Mariana has, when they're going geocaching, they'll start adding some fruit trees. What a great idea.
And earlier on, I noticed that there were lots of people that had found lots of, they found fruit trees. So, sometimes you forget about it, but if you stick it on the map, then it's a neat way of remembering what's around you.
That's right. Exactly. I think we got to all the questions while you were chatting.
Perfect.
So here are just a few reminders that while we cannot have the Eco Living Festival sort of in real or, you know, where we're used to having had it, it will be like last year, and it will still happen. And it is between the 24th of September, I think, to the 20th of October. So the school holidays, and then plus another couple of weeks or so, 10 days. There is loads and loads of fantastic webinars and talks and so on. The website for it is in the chat. But if you just Google Eco Living Fair, I'm sure it'll come up as well.
Okay. Would there be an opportunity just for me to show the site?
Sure. Also, and Caroline was asking what the name was for the apps for the Android phone.
The name for Android is My Maps.
My Map.
Yeah, oh, fantastic. Yeah, Sean says he's gone up into the Blue Mountains, and because they have a very different climate, they have a lot of the stone fruit, which is...
Yeah, yum. And blueberries probably as well.
Blueberries, yeah. Okay, so can you see Eco Living Festival?
Yep, that came up.
So on the Humanities, this is, instead of on Eventbrite, it's on Humanitics, and you can see listed here, there's a lot of exciting things going on to do with marine and the coast. We've got a film club going and a discussion group with Jackie French, run by you guys at the library, nature play, you know, getting out there, bees, birds, bugs. If you're interested in solar power, we've got something on how to get organic food at half price and alternative ways of getting organic food. You know, living with less, so, you know, this is waste reduction, intentional wardrobe, and a whole lot of things, exciting things around community gardens and climate change. And thinking about climate change, you know, the emotional side of it, and the health benefits, not just getting worried and anxious. And
yeah, you know, fantastic.
Thinking about all the facts.
That's right. Exactly. Fantastic. Check it out. We also have a few, well, actually a lot of programs at the moment running at the library. So have a look at the library website for the event calendar. We have for the youth, for the 12 to 16-year-olds, we do Monday Maker sessions at the moment, where our Makerspace officer builds all sorts of fun thing. He built an unbreakable bridge from spaghetti and hot glue the other day. I think it might have been a bit breakable, but it looked fantastic. Next Monday, he's building catapults and so on. So fun stuff to do. And we also have the school holidays coming up with great events for kids and youth. And yeah, all sorts of other activities to keep everybody occupied and busy and happy, and appreciate you. Beekeepers, what a great idea, Camille. Julian, what do you think?
Well, they're usually...
We can scrump honey.
Well, if it's your own one and you want to list it, no problems. But because it's entirely within private property, presumably, then I'd say it's not in the spirit of this map to add things that are not yours on other people's private property.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? No, I think we've answered them all. You can also just get in touch with us contact us at library.nsw.gov.au. That's just our contact address at the library. You'll find it on the website. And yeah, thank you, Julian, for your time today.
You're welcome.
Thanks everybody who attended. We appreciate you tuning in. Yes, Julian?
Yeah, sorry. I hope to see lots of scrumps in new areas.
Yeah. I'll definitely keep an eye on the website, and I might just add something. Thank you, everybody. And have a fantastic night.
Yeah.
Happy scrumping, that's right.
Happy scrumping. Thanks, Rod.